Será que eles estão me ouvindo, senhor? Tudo bem? Does everybody hear me? Yes. So good afternoon. I'm Guilherme Patriota, Brazil's permanent representative to the WTO. In fact, I have just recently arrived here and taken up this position in August, in fact. So I'm the new permanent representative of Brazil to the WTO. I'm very pleased to moderate this panel. And I want to start by thanking the presence of our panelists here with us today. I have to my left, Heloísa Pereira Chicuza. She's the Undersecretary for Trade Policy at the Brazilian Foreign Trade Chamber. I have to my right here, Nicolas Palau, the Deputy Permanent Representative of Colombia to the WTO. At further left, Fernanda Stefani, CEO of Brazilian company 100% Amazonia. And to the right, I have Lorena Jaramillo from UNCTAD. So thank you very much for being with us. This is a panel that is organized by the mission of Brazil to the WTO together with APEX, the trade promoting agency of Brazil, of the Brazilian government. So before I ask our invitees to take the floor, I would like to provide some context for today's discussions. We have chosen not just a trade issue, but a trade issue in the Amazon context, because we believe that discussions on trade and sustainability have gained so much traction in the WTO, and everyone is concerned about the implications of trade for the environment and the other way around. And we believe that the Amazon is a centerpiece of the environmental debate. So it's the world's biggest tropical forest and river basin. It's an area, I don't want to boast, but more than 1.5 times the extent of the European Union. So I think it's relevant just to put it in perspective. In terms of ecosystem, we can also mention that just the Amazon topsoil and vegetation by themselves contain more than 150 billion tons of sequestered greenhouse gas. So that's the equivalent of 10 years worth of global fossil fuel emissions. Amazonia holds 10% of the global biodiversity that we rely on for food, for health, for energy, and economic activity. It performs an important role on the hydrological cycles in South America. It's also, and this is very important, it's also home to 40 million people in 8 countries. It's practically the population of Spain. So, and that includes 400 indigenous peoples who speak more than 300 different languages. So bustling cities such as Belém and Manaus, diverse communities and culture, they live side by side, and they all belong in the Amazon. They all thrive in the forest. So the forest is not just trees and plants, it's people, a whole diversity of communities and people who also deserve to thrive, to develop, and to have a decent life. Prosperity and dignity for the people in the Amazon area is necessary for environmental action. So the fight against deforestation should go hand in hand with the fight against poverty, hunger, inequality in the Amazon. And this is a very important message that government of President Lula has tried to make this point just recently when he held a summit of the leaders of countries belonging to the Treaty on Amazon Cooperation in Belém, which is right at the delta of the Amazon, a very nice city, which will also be headquarters to COP30 2 years from now. This understanding, this relationship between dignity of people, their development, and also biodiversity and sustainability is confirmed in the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. So it underlines the interdependent relationship between biodiversity goals, and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. I was, in fact, a negotiator for Brazil of the Sustainable Development Goals in 2014, 2013, 2014, 2015. And I'm very fond of the goals. I think they're great, a great platform for everyone to embrace and to for other UN agencies, even WTO, to support. Protecting the integrity of the Amazon ecosystem means offering opportunities for its people, accounting also for the most vulnerable among them, ensuring for them food security, promoting small and medium-sized businesses, empowering women entrepreneurs, and upholding the rights of indigenous peoples and local communities. We have to do all these things together in tandem. Trade can be a driver for sustainable development. That's what we understand. It can provide the revenue streams that make a difference and lift people out of poverty. And access to international markets can create the incentives necessary for the sustainable use of forest resources. Social biodiversity products unique to the Amazon present opportunities for industries as diverse as health, chemicals, cosmetics, food, energy, construction. These opportunities, however, are often contingent upon producers being able to navigate the complex landscape of regulatory requirements and standards. So today, to talk about some of these things, we have representatives of governments, international organizations, and the private sector. They will present insights on how inclusive policies supported by international trade can be a tool to protect the Amazon rainforest and ensure a sustainable management of its resources overall. So I'd like to, first of all, invite you, Undersecretary Eloisa Pereira, to start this conversation. It's meant to be an interactive sort of participation amongst the panelists. The Amazon is a priority for the Brazilian government and for the Brazilian people. This June, we launched a new phase of our action plan for the prevention and control of deforestation in the Amazon, with the goal of achieving zero deforestation by 2030. So that's perhaps an element that can you would like to refer to in your intervention. Please take the floor.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, and it's a pleasure to be here today in this such important panel. And good afternoon, everyone. The conventional narrative making headlines today is that promoting sustainable management of forests and reducing carbon emissions from deforestation is that requires countries imposing trade sanctions and trade restrictions. And by looking at the reality of the Brazilian Amazon, we clearly see that this paradigm is exclusionary and works against the goal of ending deforestation. The question instead that we should be asking instead is how to chart a path forward that ends illegal deforestation on the one hand, and on the other hand, ensures that local communities, smallholders and indigenous peoples are not further marginalized, impoverished, and excluded in the process. This path involves a nuanced view of what deforestation means and involves treating countries according to their different conditions. And when we look at the new Brazilian plan to end and reduce deforestation in Brazil, we can see there are different actions that are being adopted in that regard. I'll just mention three of these actions that seeks to end deforestation while also including peoples, indigenous peoples, smallholders, and small farmers in the process. The first one is incentivizing forest conservation and restoration in private properties. As part of this plan to end deforestation in the Amazon, part of the plan includes payment for environmental services, and avoiding legal deforestation in part of these areas would require a new mechanism and regulation for payments for environmental service to compensate farmers for the foregone profits associated with conserving forests on their property. So there are two types of payment of environmental service that the plan seeks to put forward. The first one is when the farmer decides not to deforest a part of the property that could be legally deforested under the Brazilian Forest Code. And the second payment of environmental service is payment for restoration and conservation of degraded forest areas. Besides actions to reduce deforestation in private land while promoting social inclusion and income for landowners and even indigenous peoples, a second strategy to reduce deforestation and promote social inclusion is through targeted investments that incentivize increase in productivity in land that's already deforested. It's important to bear in mind that generating income through sustainable productive activities allows the population in the Amazon forest not to engage in deforestation practices, which are also a source of income. And third and finally, besides measures to incentivize increase the productivity of products of the bioeconomy, another strategy to decrease deforestation rates while also promoting social inclusion is through targeted technical assistance to small farmers and small and medium enterprises. Historically, the high rates of deforestation on small family farming properties stem from low income, lack of basic infrastructure, institutional support, and poor access to technical assistance, farming technology, and markets. In general, this part of the Amazonian population is the indirect link in the complex supply chains of forest-related products and may be unduly affected by unilateral measures or unilateral standards that disregard they are part of the supply chain and must be part of the solution to end deforestation. Key components for technical assistance to smallholders in the Amazon that's also part of the plan is planning of sustainable farm interventions, adoption of new technology, improvements and in processing infrastructure to comply with health and sanitary regulations. And with that, they can have their market access increased. The experience suggests the potential of promoting technical assistance adopted to a new, more sustainable production model focused on increasing productivity while minimizing deforestation of an expansion of deforestation in new native forest areas. And I'll stop here.
Well, thank you very much, Eloisa. I think it's interesting that the Export Promotion Agency of Brazil has chosen the Amazon as the context for this presentation. There's a lot of interrelated elements here to discuss. We can see how social inclusion and supporting technically the adequate exploitation of land in the Amazon rainforest is essential to reduce deforestation. I'm very happy to inform that in the first 7 months of the current government of President Lula, deforestation rates in the Amazon rainforest have dropped by 42% compared to the same period the previous year. So that's a huge drop, and it demonstrates, I think, a great and very welcome inflection in the way we have been trying to deal with sustainability issues in that region of the world. I'm very happy to have by my side here Nicolas Palau from the Mission of Colombia. Colombia, an important neighboring country, a partner in the Treaty of Amazon Cooperation Treaty. And I think you have, as a government and society, you have similar goals and challenges with respect to the Amazon. And I think you would also trying to deal with the 3 dimensions of sustainable development in the Amazonia region. Maybe you would like to speak as how you're dealing with that, the environmental, the social inclusion, and the development side of things, please.
Muito obrigado. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everyone. Let me start by apologizing Ambassador Bustamante, the permanent representative of Colombia to the WTO, because he cannot be here today with us. He's out of the city. So he sends his greetings, his welcoming words to Ambassador Patriota, and his apologies. Let me also thank the other co-panelists and the Brazilian government for organizing this meeting. I'm going to switch to Spanish. I was asked to do so by some important colleagues to me. I hope you don't mind to switch your channel and as you know, the interpreters here at the WTO to the official languages to the WTO are excellent. So we will not miss any of the discussions here, although I was prepared to do so in English. Muchas gracias. Espero que no los moleste demasiado el cambio al español. Al contrario, esto le puede dar algún tipo de riqueza adicional a la discusión. Yo quisiera empezar desde la perspectiva de Colombia con una serie de cifras sobre la foresta amazónica en nuestro país. La superficie del Amazonas en Colombia es el 8% del total de la superficie de la selva amazónica. Ustedes podrían decir, solo es el 8%, pero esto es tan grande como 10 veces Suiza. Desde Ginebra hasta Zúrich, hasta Davos, con todos los ríos, todas las montañas, la parte de Colombia de la selva amazónica es 10 veces esto. Y esto ustedes lo tienen que multiplicar luego por 12 o 13 veces para llegar al total del tamaño del Amazonas, que es una cifra que había mencionado anteriormente el embajador patriota. Además, solo en el territorio colombiano hay más de 70 grupos indígenas con múltiples lenguajes y formas idiomáticas distintas, además de una importante población occidental en las pequeñas y medias ciudades que hay en el Amazonas. Esto es para decirles que muchas veces cuando se ve desde Ginebra y se habla desde del Amazonas desde Ginebra, muchas personas creen que es una selva prácticamente virgen y que las respuestas sobre deforestación o en general sobre la preservación del Amazonas están centradas en aspectos puramente ambientales sobre la selva en sí misma. Pero ahí hay 50 millones de personas. Hay teatros, hay universidades, hay ciudades, hay colegios, hay restaurantes. De modo que la respuesta que debemos dar los distintos gobiernos de los 8 países que hacemos parte del Amazonas es una respuesta que necesariamente tiene que ser multidisciplinar y con un enfoque de sostenibilidad que tenga en cuenta la parte ambiental, por supuesto, pero también el desarrollo social y el desarrollo económico de estas comunidades, universidades, restaurantes, personas, de idiomas de todo tipo. Y así es precisamente el acercamiento que tiene el gobierno de Colombia a la preservación del Amazonas. Es un acercamiento multidisciplinar y basado en un enfoque de desarrollo sostenible con sus múltiples dimensiones. El gobierno de Colombia tiene la preservación del Amazonas muy alto en su agenda pública. En su Plan Nacional de Desarrollo tiene como una de sus metas principales la preservación del Amazonas y aún más que eso, y es un mensaje que quería contarles hoy desde la perspectiva de Colombia, en nuestro caso, la Corte Constitucional colombiana, en una decisión muy importante, en una landmark decision que adoptó en 2018, nombró al Amazonas como un sujeto especial de derechos protegidos constitucionalmente. Entonces, lo que antes era una policy choice, lo que antes podía ser solamente una decisión del gobierno, ahora es un deber constitucional que los colombianos debemos tener todos en la mente a la hora de hacer nuestro trabajo, tanto en la OMC como en general en los distintos aspectos de la protección del Amazonas. Esto no es solo una decisión simbólica, el hecho de que el Amazonas para los colombianos sea un sujeto moral de derechos constitucionales no es solo simbólico, sino que tiene varios efectos prácticos. En primer lugar, el acercamiento que tienen las autoridades colombianas, tanto a nivel nacional como departamental como local, es un acercamiento que no puede ser pasivo. Los deberes constitucionales nos exigen un deber activo de acercamiento hacia la preservación del Amazonas. No podemos simplemente tomar decisiones de no hacer esto o no hacer esto otro, sino que todas nuestras autoridades deben buscar activamente mecanismos, estrategias y prácticas de preservación del Amazonas. En segundo lugar, este deber constitucional implica que debemos tener siempre en cuenta las 3 dimensiones del desarrollo sostenible. No podemos centrarnos solo en algunas de ellas, sino que debemos siempre acercarnos a la resolución de problemas con un enfoque holístico y multidisciplinario. En tercer lugar, y este también es muy importante para nosotros, nuestra Constitución nos exige siempre tener un bottom-up approach, un acercamiento de abajo hacia arriba que tenga en cuenta las voces de los habitantes de la zona amazónica. Como nuestro presidente suele decir, que el Amazonas no tendría problema si lo manejaran exclusivamente las comunidades que en él viven. Que los problemas vienen usualmente de la forma occidental de vida, de otros, vienen de afuera los problemas. Entonces, que como mínimo, lo mínimo es que las voces de quienes allí habitan y pues sean parte de la discusión y lideren la discusión sobre la resolución de los problemas. Y un cuarto efecto práctico de lo que debemos hacer constitucionalmente en Colombia para la preservación del Amazonas es que debemos tener una obligación de apropiación presupuestal permanente y creciente sobre las distintas políticas que se refieren al Amazonas. Tenemos lo que se llama un standstill presupuestal. No podemos retirar dinero presupuestal de lo que ya tenemos para el Amazonas y destinarlo a otras cosas, sino que debemos tener un esfuerzo progresivo. De modo que tanto el acercamiento gubernamental como el deber constitucional que estableció la Corte Constitucional Colombiana desde el 2018 nos obligan y informan nuestro trabajo en todos los escenarios de una forma activa y propositiva y siempre creciente en nuestro acercamiento al Amazonas. Luego ya en la segunda parte de esta discusión, pues veremos cómo esto se refleja en el trabajo que hacemos acá en la OMC y en general con respecto al comercio, tanto a nivel internacional como a nivel doméstico. Ahí paro.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias, Nicolás, por tu importante contribución. I think a nice follow-up to this, because we heard how the Colombian government is constitutionally mandated to care for the Amazon region of Colombia, and is doing so also supporting with a minimum output of resources in support of the people living there and local community. But we also have the role of the private sector. So with us today, we have Fernanda Stefani, who's CEO of a company named 100% Amazonia, 100% Amazonia. And I think we can hear from her how the private sector can go about having a presence, an impact in the Amazon from the trade point of view, from the entrepreneurial point of view, in a positive way, in a way that is both sustainable and also profitable for the companies working there.
Yes, thank you very much, Ambassador. It's a pleasure to be here. It's really very interesting. I tried to use Amazon.com, but it was taken. So anyway, someone just robbed it before. Anyway, it's nice. I'd like to make short inquiry here. I'd like to know who has been to the Amazon before. And I mean by Amazon, not only Brazilian Amazon, I'm talking about Pan-Amazonia. Yeah, not much, but yeah, the first time I was in the Amazon, I was going to Orlando. I was 21 years old. And it was this green carpet. And I never thought there was someone under the canopies. There's nothing. And okay, I just thought, well, I don't know what that is. So about 25 years after that, I find myself doing business in the Amazon, doing business with 38 communities from east to west, starting in Benjamin Constant, from the extreme west, Apuí, Lábrea from the other side of Maranhão, which is also part of the Amazon. It's important to say that the Amazon is about 400 and Switzerland is 470 times less, smaller than the Amazon. So we need 470 Switzerlands to comply with the same territory. So we're a little bit bigger. We have a lot of space and a lot of territory. Well, anyway, my name is Fernanda Stefani. I come from an Italian family, and I am Brazilian, and I'm very proud of it. And I learned to be Brazilian living in Vienna. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm talking about this because it's not only about, you're not talking about the Amazon. We need to talk about a personal journey of a trader inside the Amazon. I'm a trader by graduation, by formation. I'm an economist, and I was able to understand how wealthy and how diverse the Amazon is by studying it first as a specialist in international trade. And I came to the Amazon first time in 2006 when I was studying the supply chain, the value chain of acai, which is at this moment one of the most valued value chains. But along all this time, I was able to discover and also create ingredients from 28 different species. And I'm not talking about commodities. I'm not talking about cacao. I'm talking about tapereba. I'm talking about breu branco. I'm talking about Brazil nuts. I'm talking about camapu, which is the, not a Peruvian, but the Amazonian physalis. There's a lot in Ecuador, but we have the physalis punctata, yeah? It's better, yeah, sweeter. It's not so in color, but it's sweeter. So I see this is something very, very different than when we're talking, because this journey that I was able to go through, and I'm still going through, it includes a lot of women, a lot of nannies and grandnannies, especially because these are the ones I would say they hold the ancestral knowledge. And we have learned from them how to do some of the ingredients we have. I can give you an example. We take acai, we divided acai into 3 different phases. We make an extract. We use that for tea, and that was using the normal tincture that we see the ladies doing in their houses, in their villages. We also take the oil. We can use oils, Amazonian oil, especially the acai oil, to rejuvenate. So you can put a lot of, I have some here if you want. Yeah, it's not for sale. Yeah? Although we should, because we are in the highest house of sales, right? In the trade. Anyway, what I mean basically is we don't know. The fact is that the business we have been conducting in the last 50 years, maybe even from the time of GATT, we don't know what's the Amazon holds. I am maybe the first to do something that is maybe impressive. We have already sold about 100 million of reais in different products, and that all pretty much 95% for outside Brazil. So we are exporting already to 69 countries. That includes Madagascar, who buys andiroba oil. Very little people know that. Guam buys also acai. And if you go to Dubai today, in many of the rooms, if you stay in a hotel room there, you are going to be served acai in room service that we don't even have in Brazil. So this is it's a great, great opportunity to be different, to make things different. But we first need to understand what we have to offer and what the Amazon has to offer to us and what we are giving as a give back. This is not only about us taking things. We were talking before about circularity. Circularity means coming and going. It's not just linear, it's a circular. This happens and this applies to the Amazon as well. So we need to understand how we can work with the Amazon in at least 3 levels. One is environmentally speaking. Secondly, of course, is social. Yeah, we have 30 million people living in the Amazon and from the Amazon directly in the Amazon. And I am one of them. I just arrived from Belém a couple of days ago. And secondly, we need to have more governance. This is key because governance is not something that is very common there. And everything starts with governance. So in our company, we decided to make a difference. So we don't think only about standards, but we have become a B corporation. I don't know if you are familiar with this definition, but B corporations are companies who exist to make the planet a better place to be. And there is a kind of certification, but more than a certification, this is a movement. So start off talking like when we created 100% Amazonia, I thought I'm going to use my training in trading as a tool for social and environmental impact in the Amazon. So I can buy from 1 or 2 or 3 communities, or I can buy from a trader, just a trader who doesn't really show us. And more than a trader, it's a middleman. I don't know where the product comes from. So we need to understand, just to finalize my speech here, of course, in Portuguese would probably be even richer. But we need to understand supply chains in the Amazon. We need to be patient because the Amazon has its own time. We need to adapt to it, not the opposite. And we also need to converse and we need to talk with the communities because we learn a lot from them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Fernanda. That was excellent. I always like to hear from people who actually have been to who know things from firsthand experience. So it's very, very important. I have next on my list, Lorena Jaramillo from UNCTAD, and I think here we're just touching upon the issue of opportunities, business opportunity, trading opportunities that can be also sustainable and socially inclusive regarding the Amazon in terms of biotrade. So I think UNCTAD is the holder of this initiative called UNCTAD Biotrade. A lot of work has gone to this, so maybe we can hear a little bit about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you also for the opportunity to be here and share UNCTAD experience on trade and biodiversity, particularly the biotrade initiative. That's the one that I manage. I'm lucky to manage it. So just to tell you some background, over 25 years ago, UNCTAD launched the biotrade initiative as a response to Agenda 21. In a way, it aimed to support countries to effectively address biodiversity loss and poverty alleviation by promoting sustainable trade and investment in biodiversity-based products and services in line with the Convention on Biological Diversity and to further sustainable development objectives. So what we do in biotrade is we support people living in and depending on biodiversity to secure their livelihoods through the sustainable sourcing and trade of value-added products. I want to highlight that we really want to work on value-added products and products that are being traded fresh in a variety of sectors. Some of them are like personal care, food, phytopharma, handicrafts, sustainable tourism, fashion. We just learned 1 month ago that in Peru, they were using the biotrade principles and criteria for alpaca fibers. So it's with really a broad variety of sectors that are being promoted. And at the core of our work, how do we ensure that the trade we're promoting comply with the 3 pillars of sustainable development? That's what we call, I brought it here, our biotrade principles and criteria. It's what we call our Bible. And these are really a set of guidelines that are used by governments, companies, and civil societies to develop sectors, value chains, and even businesses that ensure that the production and trade of their products is done respecting social, environment, and sustainability criteria. There are 7 principles and criteria. For example, I'm going to only focus on the part that include the social aspects. And indeed, for example, our biotrade principles and criteria require that the activities that are being promoted establish long-term partnerships with the supplier community. So that means you need to know who are your suppliers. You need to see what are their needs, and you assist them in developing their production. You also support them. For example, a key issue that we also see is we try to diversify the income generation by the community. So you don't only depend on one community, because if it crashes, then what happened to the community? So you really try to develop alternative bioproducts. It can be, in some cases, we work on bird watching, because normally you combine, like people like to see, like in the Amazon region, the birds that are there, but are also interesting with acai or with other products that come there. So you develop this sort of package and clusters. And then we really focus on promoting dialogue and discussion, and that people actually know the companies, but also the communities, each other know throughout the value chain. We also, one of our core elements, to respect the rights of actors. So we really highlight the importance of respecting the rights of actors of indigenous peoples and local communities, and also respect what do they consider develop, how do they want to develop, how do we promote a development. For example, here in Switzerland, how do you promote the development in here is completely different from what the circumstances are in for our community in the Amazon. So we also promote a lot of dialogue to see how do we encourage them and help them develop further. We also try to establish fair pricing. It's a very tricky topic. It's very difficult, but we try to see how a pricing that improves the quality of life of suppliers and their communities. So we don't only focus on the income that is benefiting the suppliers per se, but we try to establish rotation funds or social funds that a percentage of the sale can be used for developing schools, or for a fund when people are sick, or Christmas even, or where school starts. So that's the type of initiative that we've also been working on. And then one of the important topics that we also consider is that the activities that we're promoting, if you are, for example, dedicating all the harvesting of that species to export, that can threaten food security. So we also take into account that the export of the products does not affect food security. So this is a little bit in a nutshell what we have in here. We're lucky that for over these years, the principles and criteria were launched in 2007, updated in 2020 after a long year of consultation, and they have been implemented right now by partners, including Ministries of Trade, Ministries of Environment, trade promotion agencies in over 100 countries. We are currently benefiting around 5 million producer, harvesters, workers that are working in all this variety of sectors. Just to give you a general idea, in the Amazon countries, we work in Brazil, in Colombia, in Ecuador, and Peru. We hope to expand more, but at least we are there. We have some of our partners that are actually supporting the work. And just to give you an idea of how these type of products that are sustainably sourced by communities and are social and environmentally sustainable have dramatically increased. We have a value that in 2003, where it was the first reported of the sales, we're only 35 million euros of export, or the turnover. It can be domestic market as well. And now in 2021, we are 27 billion euros of the company. So you actually see how also this is a very important opportunity for businesses that are using sustainably natural resources and that are promoted by communities, particularly in the Amazon region. And I just wanted to brief you this idea. I will share afterwards also a concrete experience of how it actually work. But in general, these guidelines, we're working with the Ministries of Trade to develop enabling policy environments. For example, if there are duplicity of laws, so we have national programs that help overcome this duplicity, these gaps. And it's really like a bottom-up approach of developing the guidelines that address all these needs. So I just wanted to share with you that biotrade, how we see it, is really a livelihood opportunity for the communities. We help them empower them. I'm sorry. Oops. Pick up my baby. Sorry, I forgot to take the alarm off. Sorry for that. So yeah, so the biotrade will really promote the empowerment of communities, generating livelihoods, job and economic opportunities, while promoting the development and the conservation of biodiversity. So that's really in a nutshell the work that we do. And a pleasure to have. any
Thank
question.
you. Thank you very much. And congratulations on the great work you've been doing. It's very impressive to see how many billions of euros all of a sudden are coming out of this initiative. You were able to scale this up in about 2 decades of work. So there's a series of interesting things. The 470 times Switzerland dimension, I think it's an interesting one. I would hope we could have 470 times also the Swiss national budget applied to the Amazon. That would be, I think, a game changer. I think we're not there yet, but who knows for the future. The rejuvenating oil also seems very attractive. I mean, I would even pay for that. So, yeah. I have a question for my colleagues here, Louisa and Nicolas. How do you think international trade can support a kind of a bioeconomy, promote a bioeconomy in the Amazon region? Do you have any views on that?
Thank you. And I found very interesting Fernanda's remarks about different products, 100% Amazonia exports, because we all know acai, but she pronounced some of the other names that not even Brazilians can pronounce. So this comes to my first point of how international trade policy, international trade law can promote the products of the Amazon and the bioeconomy products. And the first thing, we should start reframing the debate of what is an environmental good. A common starting point when we talk about environmental goods and services is that environmental goods and service are those technologies contributing to the low carbon energy transition. We're talking about carbon capture, sequestration technologies, or we're talking about renewable energy technologies. So it's just like it's not all renewable energy technologies, just like some that interest to some countries. And today there is this shared view what environmental goods is, and which we can. It's a shared view in many documents here in the WTO and outside. So the World Trade Report launched yesterday talks about environmental goods, just like technologies. We see the WTO 2022 Trade and Climate Change Report is the same. If you look at the environmental goods and agreements negotiations, is the same. If we look at the trade and environmental sustainability and structured discussions under the Committee on Trade and Environment, it's also the discussions also focus on technologies for reducing carbon emissions. And if you look at the OECD classification environmental goods, the focus is also on technologies. And while incentivizing better trading conditions for these technologies is really part of the discussion, it's only a partial part of the story. So if you think about how trade policy can facilitate trade of products of the bioeconomy, these products that Fernanda mentioned, that are just like at the heart of the Amazon and the Amazon peoples, we also need to look at products of the Amazon forest and products of the bioeconomy of other forests as an environmental good. If you want to end extreme poverty by 2030 and make trade work for that goal and for inclusion of poor populations in many Latin American countries, African countries, and Asian countries, we need to start reframing the terms of what environmental goods is. In all these parts of the globe, which means it's like most of the parts of the globe, environmental goods are not only defined according to the final end use of the good, meaning reducing carbon emissions. We should also take into account when defining environmental goods, whether the production and process methods of these products, like the bioeconomy products, are based on sustainable forms of production and whether they marginalize or include poor population, smallholders, and small farmers in the process. So this is one way that trade could facilitate products of bioeconomy, just like changing what we understand about an environmental good. And then when we think about facilitating trade of environmental goods, we should also start thinking about this broad conception of production process of products of the bioeconomy. In part, we should be talking about ending illegal deforestation, but the other part of the discussion is that we talk about innovation and techniques associated with these products and how inclusive this production is and whether they are or not associated with harmful subsidies. I'm curious to listen from Fernanda because before this session started, she was talking how her company exports around 30 products of the Amazon, which are transformed, and there must be a lot of research and innovation in this product that that her company exports, and then nobody talks about them. Besides this research and innovation that are embedded in products of the Amazon, we also should think about how nature climate solutions are also embedded in this product. Brazil is an important player in agriculture markets because it has a good endowments in nature climate solutions. Brazil accounts for 21% of tropical natural climate solutions and 15% of world's total solutions that have potential to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, either because it has lower intention of a lower nitrogen fertilizers footprint, or because it integrates crops, pasture, and forest solutions. So when you're talking about an environmental good, it's not only about deforestation. Illegal deforestation is also about what techniques and technology and innovation are associated with those goods. And the third is just like is the idea of facilitating trade, is the idea of promoting international classification of some environmental goods, which might suffer from TBT and SPS barriers, as like technical barriers to trade and sanitary and phytosanitary measures, because they are classified under others. And I was curious to know that Fernanda mentioned in the beginning that not always this is the case. Sometimes products from the bioeconomy can even be benefited because they are classified under others, because they don't have proper classification in the harmonized system of classification of products for tariffs. But these are the 3 points that trade could facilitate trade of products, trade policy could facilitate trade of products of the bioeconomy.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. Nicolas, would you like to add?
Thank you very much. Gracias. Bueno, nuestro deber constitucional de preservación del Amazonas se traduce de varias formas en el derecho internacional del comercio, tal como lo abordamos nosotros. Compartimos plenamente lo que ha dicho Eloísa sobre las formas en las que el comercio internacional puede ayudar a la bioeconomía y a la conservación del Amazonas. Compartimos plenamente la idea de los bienes ambientales, de la facilitación del comercio, del impacto que tienen los subsidios. Pero quería hacer énfasis tal vez en 2 directrices importantes para Colombia en la materia, que son parte de nuestro quehacer diario acá en la OMC y en los escenarios de comercio internacional. La primera es la relacionada con la inclusión de nuevas voces en la discusión sobre comercio internacional, y la segunda es aquella relativa a la interacción de los principios del derecho ambiental con los principios del derecho comercial internacional. Entonces, sobre la primera, casi que lo hemos dicho todos acá, sería un pesar perderse de intervenciones como la de Fernanda a la hora de entender un problema o una situación como la del Amazonas. Colombia con otros países busca que la OMC se abra a nuevas voces, escuche otras perspectivas sobre los distintos problemas, y en ese sentido pues busca también el reconocimiento de los conocimientos tradicionales, el reconocimiento del folclore, tanto en la OMC como en la WIPO, y pues tiene una serie de iniciativas en el camino de incluir de mejor manera en las discusiones de derecho internacional del comercio otras voces y especialmente las voces indígenas y en particular pues las voces indígenas del Amazonas en este caso. La segunda gran directriz adicional sobre la que queríamos hacer énfasis es la de la relación entre los principios del derecho ambiental y los principios del derecho comercial. La OMC y la estructura multilateral del derecho internacional del comercio no pueden ser abordadas como un silo. Tienen relaciones permanentes con todas las otras obligaciones y discusiones que existen a nivel multilateral, especialmente en el escenario ambiental. En el escenario ambiental, desde los 70, desde la Declaración de Estocolmo y particularmente en la Declaración de Río +20, ha habido una serie de consensos que se han mantenido a lo largo de todos estos años sobre los principios que deben guiar la acción de los países en materia de preservación ambiental. Luego, sin embargo, llegamos a la OMC y nos encontramos con una serie de medidas, y esto ya es un poco contencioso, pero nos encontramos con una serie de medidas unilaterales por parte de algunos países especialmente industrializados. Me refiero a algunas medidas como las regulaciones sobre deforestación, me refiero a algunas medidas relativas a ajustes en la medida del carbono, algunas regulaciones relativas a los procesos de debida diligencia, que lo que hacen es que deciden cuál es la mejor manera de lograr un objetivo de protección ambiental y lo imponen para todos los demás países con una fórmula de one size fits all. La forma de hacerlo es esta. Sin embargo, los principios del derecho ambiental tienen una aproximación totalmente distinta y en la cual, y muy consensuada y muy bien establecida y más efectiva desde nuestro punto de vista, en la cual se reconocen distintos principios que deben guiar la acción de los gobiernos. Estos principios son, por ejemplo, el principio de soberanía, que dice que cada país define su contribución y lo que debe hacer, pero sobre todo la forma en la que lo quiere hacer. Hay también un principio de cooperación internacional que establece que las medidas para que sean legales desde un punto de vista medioambiental deben ser cooperativas y no necesariamente unilaterales. Hay un principio que reconoce responsabilidades diferenciadas de acuerdo con las contribuciones históricas que se han hecho. Entonces, la perspectiva de Colombia del comercio internacional nos dice que no solamente debemos tener en cuenta las reglas de la OMC y especialmente las excepciones a las reglas de la OMC establecidas en el artículo 20, sino que debemos tener en cuenta para que éstas sean efectivas y para que éstas sean legales, también todo aquello que ha sido consensuado por nuestros mismos países en materia medioambiental. Entonces, una de nuestras directrices fundamentales en nuestro acercamiento al derecho internacional del comercio, que nosotros creemos fundamental para una debida preservación del Amazonas, es que las medidas deben tener diferenciaciones. La implementación y la observancia de las medidas no pueden ser one size fits all, impuesta desde arriba, sino que deben tener unos mecanismos de observancia o de compliance diferenciado. Acá lo hemos mencionado, acá Fernanda habló de cómo adaptar los tiempos a los tiempos del Amazonas. Lorena habló también de cómo los 17 principios de la UNCTAD deben tener en cuenta relaciones de largo plazo y una estructura que viene desde abajo hacia arriba. Todo eso es importante no solo para asegurar la eficacia de las medidas comerciales, sino también desde nuestra perspectiva para asegurar la legalidad o la compliance con la WTO de las distintas medidas que se están tomando. Entonces, estas dos orientaciones directrices de comercio internacional de Colombia son adicionales a las que ha mencionado Eloísa y son importantes para nuestro acercamiento al asunto.
I'm very happy you brought all that up. That's you saved me from having to to do it myself, but it's an extremely important element. I think all of the I think points of view that were presented have been very much complementing each other. Very important. I was some years back doing Committee on Trade and Environment for Brazil here. It was further back, so I think the discussion wasn't as developed as it is now. And no one really spoke about integrating WTO with the Sustainable Development Goals and the 2030 Agenda. I think we were far from that. In those days, the head of the WTO, the DG, I don't think would ever refer to the preambular language of the Marrakesh Treaty, and especially that first paragraph that the current DG always refers to. So we were in a different kind of mindset, and trying to devise a list of environmental goods. What would they be? And the discussions were very odd, very strange, because they were all, you weren't allowed to refer to production and method, production process, methods of production, life cycle of goods, and a more comprehensive approach to things. So how could you just determine if a good is an environmental good, looking at the good itself, at the final product and its function? So there were things like bicycle, it's an environmental good because people ride it with their own legs, and it does not use fossil fuel and so on and so forth, but the production of bicycles can, and pedals, all sorts of things. There was like a DVD equipment that was presented, and then next to it, there was a diagram, this DVD, and equals so many trees, because you're saving on paper. So you can save the equivalent of, I don't know how many sheets of paper by having a DVD, by saving your information digitally and not printing it on paper. So you're saving a whole forest just by buying this DVD produced by someone. So that was the level of discussion then. And now we're hearing these presentations from persons who actually are looking concretely at the system as a whole, you know, and how complex it is. And I think today, when you're talking about WTO versus Sustainable Development Agenda and goals, the three elements I think kick in, and to determine if something is environmental or not, I think we have to look at the three dimensions of the social inclusion, the social impact on people, because people are a concern. You have to look at the environment, the impact on the environment. And I think you have to look at the impact on development. So those are the three elements of the agenda. And I think we have to broaden our perspective. I'm very keen on doing that. And of course, I think how the two systems relate to each other, the nationally determined indicative contributions under the Paris Convention they're nationally determined, and it's under the concept of CBDR. So all the differences between countries are there, whereas here in WTO we work under a different type of perspective. It's a commitment for all members. So how to merge these things is not very simple. In any case, I want to ask Fernanda one question. I was recently speaking with associations of the big agro-business people in Brazil. They're very big. They export a whole lot in spite of the fact that agriculture has still not been fully incorporated into the WTO, and there's still a lot of pushback for doing that here. So it's not fully integrated into the rules-based free trade system. Nevertheless, there was a feeling that in spite of that, Brazil managed to become a very efficient supplier of food, grains, meats. So we've become, in a sense, a sustainable solution for food security challenges. But that perhaps we didn't go as far in other areas, in niche markets, such as Brazil nuts, cashew nuts, Brazil nuts, and certain products that are typical from the Amazonia. You mentioned acai. Acai in 20 years' time, I didn't know about acai. It used to be food that people trying to build muscles would eat, because there was a lot of calories in a small bowl of acai, like 400 or 500 calories. So if you wanted to gain a lot of muscle, a lot of sugar as well, they would put into that. But it was considered food for people, for Schwarzeneggers and things like that. And now you see acai all over the place. I go to Costco in Japan and they have acai juice, acai everything. So do you think these Amazonian products that you're mentioning can achieve a level of global uh, value and export in terms of volume equivalent to other commodities without impacting negatively on the communities and all that?
That's a good question. Well, the acai is maybe off the curve because it has some type of indulgence. So people get really addicted to eating acai. We have many customers. We have created for other people their own brands of acai because they came to Brazil. They were hooked on acai eating, and they could not find acai in their own country. So we have done at least 12 different brands, starting in Singapore, Peru, Brussels, Belgium. There's one in the UK. There's two in the UK. There's many in the US. So of course, this is something that could eventually be even something that we could look for. Although it's important to say that there's also monoculture on acai. And the impact on acai demand on certain areas, because areas are not really becoming bigger. So it's actually a little bit concerning because in certain areas, like in the low Tapajós River, you see areas who were more biodiverse becoming acai diverse. So this is what we call acaiization. Yeah, well, we human beings, we love to do agriculture and we want to do always the same way. So I think acai is a wonderful product. It still is a wonderful product. It's a lot to give for us in the world. But I think we need to tackle a little more on diversification. So there's acai during a certain part of the year. Then there's bacaba too. There is camapu, as I said, there's cupuaçu. In Colombia, you guys have lucuma, which is wonderful. We could do some type of exchange. You put lucuma with acai. Well, I think that we need to think not only about the Amazon, but about a different way of consumption. So we have, I mean, it doesn't make any sense for me to have soy and cattle beef in the Amazon. It makes absolutely no sense. We have so much biodiversity that is not only edible, but it gives you, they're superfoods. And then my idea is always to think, I say, we need to look at the Amazon with different eyes. It can really be what we call celeiro do mundo, not in terms of grains, because this is really not very common, but in terms of fruits, in terms of seeds, in terms of extracts, in terms of oils and butters. There is a brand in Brazil called Satva now. They are taking cupuaçu seeds and they are doing a vegan butter, and it tastes wonderfully. Yeah, so you could, you can buy if you want. I can give you the link later, but this is a vegan butter made out of cupuaçu seeds. And so there are some other things that we can think, but I really believe we need to be a little bit more open to different types of eating possibilities. Let's say that this is very difficult when we talk about eating. This is a culture. So if you go to the Amazon, if you go to Pará, there is a specific eating culture there. This is quite different than what we eat here. And even there is still a lot to discover. So we have mainly, we have actually only 28 species that we do something, but this is maybe 2% of the possibilities. The thing is, we need to understand Amazon from a collaborative point of view, not from a competitive point of view. This goes for the Amazon, but this goes for the world. Capitalism has brought us competition. There is the good thing of it. No, I mean, we have evolved, we have achieved technologies that are amazing because of competition, But to a certain extent, competition will not put us forward when we're talking about climate, when we're talking that we need now. We need to tackle all these challenges together. And I understand collaboration really, it's much, much more important than anything else at this very moment. And not only collaboration from the standpoint of companies, of government as well. And I think especially now we have Colombia, we have 9 states, 9 countries that have the Amazon. The OTCA is getting together again. That happened maybe 1 month ago in Belém. This is something that can really help. I believe in that. I believe in governments, although sometimes it goes a little bit slowly as we wanted, but because there's many, many interests. There's one only thing I'd like to think is that we really need to build a sustainable green economy in the Amazon. Should be made by the Amazonians and supported by science and supported by technology, especially using ancestral knowledge as an inspiration. This is very, very important. It's a new vision for the Amazon. It's not the same business or the same business as usual. This is not going to happen. If we do not change that, that's why I have actually a proposition for you. I think we should remake a Uruguay round, and we should create SWTO, Sustainable World Trade Organization. So let's start from the very beginning. So let's forget everything else. Let's look at with different eyes. That's the idea.
Thanks. Well, I hope I'm not here when you start doing that. Anyway, it's not totally out of the usual, the fact that you're suggesting that. I think there's a lot of people thinking along those lines around here today, with some very grandiose kind of vision for how to reshape the WTO into a kind of a sustainable world trade organization.
It's just
mechanism.
just a brincadeirinha, a joke, of course,
No,
but it's
fine.
important to reflect. Yeah,
Yes,
to
it
the
is.
reflection.
No, thank you very much. Ms. Jaramillo, do you have anything to add from your experience with BioTrade and UNCTAD? And
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Yeah, I was just inspired with the latest presentation. So I maybe also want to share another experience following what Fernanda was saying, that of course, by the Amazon, you have so many products that you can develop and generate value added. I wanted to share the experience of one of the products, which is Ukuba. So the Ukuba tree is also coming from the Amazon region. It's not that much known as acai yet, but this product was normally threatened because of illegal logging. It was really endangered species, and then one of the companies that work under the voucher principles and criteria, which is a bigger Brazilian company, Natura Cosmetic, they identified that this the fruit of this Ukuba tree has very interesting moisturizing properties. So at the end, they're now using the Ukuba tree. They developed one of their eco product lines of using this berry, and they have even approached the communities. They have signed access and benefit sharing agreements with the local communities, so they're able to extract the product, the fruit and the butter. And just an example, right now they are the price of the berries of the fruit and how they are extracted. Natura is paying the communities 3 times higher the price that cutting the trees. So you see how much really, like, for them, keeping up the forest, keeping it alive, incentivize them to have a standing forest than one time cutting the tree and then that's it. So right now, through this program, they're currently benefiting around 1,000 families. They're protecting around 60,000 hectares of Amazon forest, and they're protecting around 5,000 Ukuba trees per year. And it is really an example of, you see, like, we have to go beyond. The Amazon can offer really a lot of opportunities for the countries to develop. And of course, you need investment, you need research and development, and you need policies that can help enable that development. And that I just wanted to share that brief experience. And also maybe just following up also what the ambassador said at the beginning. I think there's also a very interesting opportunity that we have that you mentioned with the Kuning Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. As you know, will tell us the pathway of how to develop biodiversity, promote health biodiversity laws, and then trade can be a key player and an actor to contribute to that. And I think bringing also the GBA, the Global Biodiversity Framework, and the biodiversity into the discussions here will be also very interesting to consider into that. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And before asking Louisa or Nicholas if they have their final words, just perhaps if there's any question from from the audience, we still have a couple of minutes. Yes, go ahead, please. No, it seems to be a lot. Time is short. I think you have to press it.
Okay, is it okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Firstly, I would like to thank you for the enriching discussion. I'm part of the Latin American team of ITC, and I'm particularly interested in listening to your perspective on the new EU regulation against deforestation. Nicolas talked a bit about it. To what extent do you consider this legislation could potentially affect producers? And what measures do you recommend going forward? Thanks a lot.
That's a very interesting question. Let's get two or three. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And I will ask the question in Spanish. So if you don't mind, the translators are there with me.
Go ahead.
Mi pregunta está más está relacionada con lo que ha dicho Fernanda, ¿no? Y pues ha sido súper interesante. Quiero preguntar desde la perspectiva del trader, ¿no? ¿Cómo el conocimiento tradicional se preserva? ¿Cuál es el enfoque que ustedes le han dado en este mecanismo de extracción de las comunidades, de las mujeres que ustedes pues están trabajando? Y lo pregunto porque en Colombia nosotros tenemos también otro tipo de productos amazónicos un poco relacionados con la industria farmacéutica, pero también diferentes, por ejemplo, la ayahuasca, que es un producto que está tomando bastante relevancia y que funciona como un psicodélico, ¿no? Y hemos visto pues, que sirve para tratar la depresión. Hemos visto que ese conocimiento tradicional que generan esta extracción se ha visto un poquito implicado y se ha visto un poquito dejado atrás. Entonces la pregunta es, ¿cómo hacer desde la perspectiva del trader? Porque pues muchas veces los que hacemos política pública no entendemos las dinámicas de las comunidades. Gracias.
Maybe one more question because we're going to have to end. Please go ahead.
Hi, first of all, I just want to say thank you all so much. It was a very enriching and enlightening discussion. My name is Brecker Ferguson. I'm a student at Northeastern University in Boston, but I lived in the Amazon, in the Ecuadorian Amazon for 2 months earlier this year, working on community-based development projects. My question is mostly related to kind of the social aspects of what we were discussing today. So as we've kind of already mentioned, the indigenous communities and the Amazon have a very different way of treating their natural resources than the westernized economy. They tend to be more so stewards of nature who, in my experience at least, ascribe much more intrinsic value towards the natural goods that they use in their economies, whereas our westernized free market values in nature are much more exploitative and seek to commodify all natural goods. So my question to you is, what steps can economic policymakers and entrepreneurs make to try and reconcile these ethical differences between indigenous and Western communities so that they can promote livelihoods and sustainability within the Amazon? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's share the efforts to respond. Perhaps, Nicolas, you can tackle one of those, the EU deforestation directive.
Gracias y no gracias.
porque es una muy buena pregunta, pero es una difícil pregunta. ¿Qué hacer? Bueno, una primera opción podría ser la de hacer una Sustainable World Trade Organization completamente distinta, que hacemos la ICización de la OMC o la lucumización de la OMC, pero sí que integre de mejor manera los avances que ha tenido el derecho medioambiental con los avances que tiene el derecho comercial y hacer una mejor integración de las dos dimensiones, de modo que las respuestas a políticas particulares como la deforestación sean mejores, más efectivas y mejores para todos. Ahora, con respecto a la regulación sobre deforestación, bueno, en primer lugar, sí es importante anotar que esa regulación tiene un espíritu medioambiental decidido de forma unilateral por un grupo de países, que no necesariamente responde a todas las inquietudes, dificultades, challenges, retos, combinaciones que pueden llegar a tener los demás países. Decide además las formas de implementación de esa regulación. Decide, por ejemplo, la deforestación se tendrá en cuenta desde 1986, cosa que es una decisión de política pública. Podría ser antes, podría ser después, y eso cambiaría mucho las cosas. Entonces sí creemos que es importante tener en cuenta una observancia diferenciada. Los embajadores ante la Unión Europea de 17 países, incluidos Brasil, Colombia, Ecuador, enviaron una carta a la Comisión Europea recientemente sobre la regulación de deforestación, diciendo que debería tener mayor cooperación, mayor diálogo y una observancia diferenciada de acuerdo con las particularidades de cada uno de los países involucrados. Entonces sí que hay varias formas de abordar el problema, unas más grandes, otras más particulares, pero sí hay definitivamente una situación difícil cuando desde arriba se decide un one size fits all policy que termina afectando probablemente los productos en el futuro de varios de nuestros países.
Muy bien, gracias. Fernanda, como preservar o conhecimento tradicional, por exemplo?
This is a good question. We have created within our company a program called Ariamuru, in which every new community, today we have about 38 co-ops, between co-ops, association, group of, small communities we work with. We start doing pretty much relationship, and we use a protocol by the International Labor Organization, Convention 169, that says, I don't know in English, consulta livre per consultation previous, free prior. Okay, it's good that everybody speaks English here. So yes, we use this, we use the consultation. So basically it's very simple framework, but people don't normally use it. It's every time if someone goes to, if you want to visit someone, you go to their house and you just use the doorbell and say, please, can I come in? This is very easy. This is what, they want people to say, hey, would you like to talk to us before we do anything? It's pretty much respecting their environment, respecting their homes, and open for dialogue. People want to do conversations. So what we do basically in that case is benefit sharing. This is called repartição de benefícios. We talk to the community, we do dialogues. We bring them in every time they have problems, we will help them. And it's the same. We have, for instance, now a problem happening in the Alto do Padi, which is an association we work with at Guaraná Orgânico. Someone from gold mining, a gold miner came in and brought malaria to them. So the whole community has malaria now. And it's really in the middle of one of the most beautiful places. So they call us and say, hey, can you help us? Of course. They don't get access to medicine. They're using their traditional ways of healing, but it's a big problem for them. So they call us. Of course, we were going to help them. This is both ways. It's always both ways. So this is very important for us. On the other side, the other guy from Northwestern University, Northeastern, okay, on the other side. I heard once from a very, very knowledgeable person called Daniel Munduruku. I don't know if you guys know them. This is one of the most important philosophers, in my opinion. He said one thing that changed the way I see also the Amazon. He said that indigenous communities, they simply exist. And the Western world, they are functional. So you function, so you don't exist in our world. That's why I called you. Your name is, what's your name? What do you do? This is the second question. So you just exist because you do something. If you don't do anything, though, you're a vagabond, or you don't do anything, or you're a tramp. In Amazon, if you go in the tribes, they say, I exist, that's enough. So this is the basis. And maybe we should think, I exist, it's fine. But we are so trapped in consumption and capitalism. And of course, I believe in that too, but maybe we need to rethink a little bit that. And this is the big difference. If you understand functionalism over just simply existing, this makes a big difference.
We're moving towards the transcendental trade,
Yeah,
World Trade
course.
Organization, which is even perhaps
more
even a better
interesting.
idea than just sustainable. So Lorena and Eloisa, final comments?
No, just wanted to complement a little bit. Also, we have developed like some asset and benefit sharing schemes that recognize traditional knowledge of communities. There's some cases, some examples that have been developed, and we developed a handbook. So I'm giving here to your colleague, and it actually addresses how policymakers can address traditional knowledge. I hope it will be very useful. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll be very brief and I'll only add to what Nicolas had mentioned about the answer of the IPC representative, that when we're talking about sustainability standards, either the one that EU imposed in its EU deforestation regulation or private sustainability standards that aim to tackle climate change and other environmental challenges, we must ensure that these standards do not undermine the principles and the rules of the regime they seek to protect. For example, when we're talking about the EU deforestation regulation, we must ensure, for example, that carbon credits from forest-based projects that meet international standards and also standards in the climate regime are taken into account as an offset of deforestation, offset of industrial production emissions. Another principle that Nicolas also mentioned is differentiation. And differentiation means that something that Fernanda pointed, which is different time frames for implementation of the rules. And the third point that it's also tied to differentiation is technical and financial assistance. One cannot expect that poor population in the Amazonian forest and also smallholders are not just like assisted and equipped with enough information and technology to implement all those sustainability standards. So I end here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the wonderful presentations and comments by our panelists today. Give them a round of applause. To thank you also for your participation and attention, and to invite all of you to a reception offered by the Mission of Brazil just next door here to your left in the room called Salle des Pas Perdus. So the lost steps room or something like that. Someone got lost there at one point, or so you're all invited. We're gonna have our reception just now. Thank you very much for your participation. Thank you.
I have left some butters and oils if someone, especially the ladies, they love it. So yes, muru.
Which one is for the...
Lacaxi.
Eu quero saber qual que é para rugas, qual que é para o rosto.